Well, welcome to another episode of the Always About People show. I know you've got tons of questions already. You're trying to figure out, where is that guy? Why is he in a commercial kitchen? I'm actually in Jacksonville, Florida at one of our clients, and this is a fishing production facility. And right here in this commercial grade kitchen, they do shows, cooking shows, for the public to understand how to prepare fish, different fish that they bring straight off the boats, straight off the dock. And I just thought it would be fun to come live from a show. I thought it would also be interesting if we just use the analogy and the illustration that really what we're doing here on the Always About People show is we are trying to put together the ingredients for you to become a better leader. We said in the description for today's show that we wanted to go beyond just what we did in the last episode, which was to give some practical insights on how you can be a better people leader, but now into actually assessing, listen, here's how you're doing, and here are some ways that you can grow. And so we're going to get into that. We've got a series of questions that we use with leaders in different organizations across the country that we use to just assess their level of people leadership. Again, this is sort of some language that we're using internally at Always About People, and we'd love to bring you along. So I hope that you'll enjoy today's show. A little bit of a mix in the background, a little bit of change is good. And so we're glad that you're joining with us live again today. And if you're watching this after the fact, we hope that you'll just engage with us along the way as well. There's a couple things that I want to encourage you to do. The first is feel free to comment, feel free to ask questions. We want to make this as interactive as possible. The second thing is that we're going to try something new today. And that is that if you would actually, I don't know if you're on a computer, if you're on your phone, it might be a little more difficult, but if you would open up an email and actually address that email to info@alwaysaboutpeople.com. In that email, what we're going to ask, if you feel comfortable, is sharing some of the scores of the results of the quiz or the questions that we give throughout the show. And we're going to ask you to number those questions, send in your results if you feel comfortable. And we would love to just have a way of taking in these scores, understanding how leaders are doing. It will help us in our own research in the way that we serve people and the way that we pick topics for these shows. So again, thank you for being here. We are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And so wherever you're joining with us from, we appreciate that you're here. All right, last episode. If you did not have the opportunity to watch last episode, I wanted to do a recap to bring our entire audience up to speed. Last show, we talked about 11 specific ways that you can be a people leader. Again, we use that language simply because we're not doing people leadership. We are being, because we believe that in order for organizational change to happen, we need to have individual change that's happening in each one of us as leaders. So we are being more effective people leaders. Now, the practical things that we gave, I wanted to run through quickly. I thought it would be a great place to just start the show today. But we had 11 specific thoughts. We've received some pretty good feedback from those of you who watched the episode who said, hey, that was really helpful. Good. We hope it's practical. That's the purpose of this show. Again, it's like we're putting the ingredients together to develop more effective people leadership. And one of the things that we see in every organization that we walk into is that right now, given what's going on in the environment, in the recruiting space, with the next generation entering the workforce, coming out of COVID, we know that now is the time to develop more effective people leaders. That really what people want most, what is most important to people, is that they're valued by their organization, valued by their manager, and feel a sense of belonging in their organization or in their work. And so these were the 11 things that we gave during our last episode. Just as a recap, number one, connect regularly with your people. We talked about doing effective one-on-ones. We talked about daily checkpoints, just checking on people the way you would any other relationship in your life. Number two, we talked about listening for understanding. Be attentive. Don't hold your phone in one hand. Look at nonverbal cues, engage with people, and then recap the conversation with people. Number 3, we talked about allow yourself to be interrupted. Ultimately, people are going to come with their challenges, and sometimes it's going to be at inopportune times. It's going to be when you least expect it. You can't afford to be interrupted constantly, but you may know when you need to just stop what you're doing, engage with a person who has a need. And so we would just say, allow yourself to be interrupted. Number 4, clarify expectations. Again, we believe that one of the things that helps people be more effective in their work, gives them a sense of accomplishment, a sense of winning each day, is that they understand what's expected of them. So communicate a vision. Help people understand what it is they're trying to accomplish and you're trying to accomplish. Make sure that those expectations are achievable. Ask the people themselves if they are achievable. The worst thing would be to assume that something's achievable and realize that your entire team is talking behind your back about how this is an impossible task. And then create a culture where you tolerate the behaviors that you want to see alignment around, and you don't tolerate the behaviors that are not aligned with the mission, vision, and values of your team or organization. All right, number 5, ask better questions. We just said, hey, there's a real benefit to asking better questions and getting a person talking specifically about themselves. We gave a few specific examples, like remember names of their family, spouse, friends, kids. What are their motivations? What are their wants, their desires, their interests, their values? And then also begin to understand what their insecurities are. Number 6, believe the best. Believe the best. We talked about specifically understanding your own belief systems, your biases, and the assumptions that you make about people. But ultimately, if you believe the best in people, they will begin to believe in themselves. Number 7, praise, appreciate, and encourage. Praise, appreciate, and encourage. Say good job. Say thank you. Show gratitude. Encourage, hey, you're doing great. You're doing a great job. And then I believe in you, which ties into the last one as well. Number 8, don't take yourself too seriously. Again, we take the work seriously. We don't take ourselves that seriously. Don't take yourself so seriously. Number 9, be vulnerable. When we say be vulnerable, talk about your own insecurities and your fears. Admit mistakes. Say you're sorry every once in a while. I think admitting to a mistake and saying sorry to people just says, hey, listen, I'm not above you. I make mistakes too, and it's okay to fail. Number 10, model change. We know that in social conformity, modeling from the top down is really important. People are going to model your behavior. As a leader, if you are not modeling change, meaning even things like learning and growth, if you're not recommending books, if you're not recommending things that you're watching, reading, listening to, and you're not modeling that for your team, they're not going to do that. They're not going to align with it. They're not going to behave in that way. And so make sure that you're modeling what you want to see reproduced. Number 11, ask questions instead of ordering or directing. Ask questions, reframe it. So what would you do? Again, I think the example that we gave in the show was when someone comes to you and says, what should I do? That you would just say, I don't know. What would you do? Or how would you handle this? Or if you were so-and-so, how would you handle this? You don't have to have all of the solutions. Bring people into decisions, brainstorming, and the creation of solutions, and then create the space to think beyond tasks. So again, we gave 11 practical steps or practical thoughts to be a better people leader. We said in last episode that this was not an exhaustive list. They were not prioritized in any way, shape, or form, but it was just 11 thoughts. So once again, quick review: connect regularly with people, listen for understanding, allow yourself to be interrupted, clarify expectations, ask better questions, believe the best in people, praise, appreciate, and encourage. Don't take yourself so seriously, be vulnerable, model change, ask questions instead of ordering or directing. And so while we gave those practical steps to be a more effective people leader, we thought we would also step back and just say, hey, what if we devoted a show, an episode, to actually helping people assess where they are on that scale, where they are on the scale of what we would say is effective people leadership. Now, these responses, the way that you process, the way that you reflect on these questions is only for you to see. So the best thing that I could recommend is that you would be honest with yourself in this assessment. Again, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to understand which areas you need to grow. And so we are hopeful that these questions will at least ignite, maybe create a catalyst for your continued growth. Maybe it's something that you need to go read, learn. Maybe it's somebody that you need to talk to about mentorship. Hey, here's an area that I want to get better in. Could you help me? And so we hope that these questions will then turn into some practical steps for you to continue growing, learning, and continuing to change. And let's be honest, change is sometimes painful, change is difficult, and it involves courage. So what I'm going to challenge you with right now is, do you have the courage to step into some of these questions? And again, we're going to try and create these questions around what we've developed at Always About People. We call our leadership framework. And there are four main themes in this leadership framework. The first is that effective people leaders know how to follow humbly. The second is that effective people leaders know how to inspire strategically. The third is that effective people leaders know how to manage individually. And then the fourth, we try and keep it really simple. The fourth is that effective people leaders know how to influence people lovingly. So again, follow humbly, inspire strategically, manage individually, influence lovingly. And those four concepts break down into a number of questions. And so again, I'm going to leave some space, but here are just some thoughts quickly. As you hear this question, I'll give you the scale. For each of these questions, you're going to answer on a piece of paper or on your own, 1 to 6. It's what's called a 6-point linear scale. It's used a lot, the 6 points, just so that you can't pick the middle. If I gave you a 5-point scale, most of you would pick 3 because it's in the middle. We're going to ask you to lean one way or the other on this scale using 6 points. So 1 being the low, 6 being the high, and I'll give you specific instructions. We're going to use 2 different scale types. You don't need to know the science behind all of that. I'll explain it as we go. But in terms of follow humbly, let me give you the first question. The first question is, as a leader, does admitting your mistakes make you seem weaker? Here's the scale. Number 1, strongly disagree with this statement. If I answer a 6, I strongly agree with this question or statement. As a leader, does admitting my mistakes make me seem weaker? Again, 1, strongly disagree, 6, strongly agree, anywhere in that scale. And so what we're asking there is, do you believe that admitting failure or mistakes actually decreases your ability to lead? And within our leadership framework and within the work that we do with leaders, we try to help people understand that admitting our mistakes and getting to a place of vulnerability actually makes you a stronger leader. All right, next question. In a difficult situation, do you keep a positive attitude? Now, be honest with yourself. Here's where the scale is now. 1, never. I never keep a positive attitude. It's a really difficult thing to do. 6, I always keep a positive attitude. Somewhere in that scale you are. 1, never. 6, always. But let's be honest. In a difficult situation, most of us have a really difficult time keeping a positive attitude. Stress, oftentimes anxiety, which is caused by the release of a few hormones, cortisol being the one that stays in our body the longest, can actually change the way that we perceive environments. It has an effect on our attitudes, and we can become short, we can become angry, we can become emotional in a number of different ways. But the question or the statement would be, in a difficult situation, do you keep a positive attitude? 1, never. 6 always. All right, moving on to our next question. I apologize to my team whenever I am wrong. I apologize to my team whenever I am wrong. I would just say this again, same scale as last time: 1, never; 6, always. But oftentimes we talk with leaders who, again, don't take the time to apologize, don't say sorry, don't say they're wrong because of a fear that it might make them look weak. And what we found, and many other people have researched, is that my ability to be human, my ability to admit my mistakes, provides psychological safety for the other people on my team to feel like, hey, making a mistake is okay. I'm not going to lose my job. The best thing I can do is admit to my mistake and apologize to my team because I either made the mistake, I let them down, or something else happened as a result of it. All right, next question. I always tell the truth to my team members, even if they might not like to hear that. I always tell the truth to my team members, even if they might not like to hear that, meaning they don't like to hear the truth. And so, again, to many leaders who love harmony, to many leaders who want to keep everything enjoyable, having difficult conversations where you tell the truth can be a barrier that many leaders just don't want to step over. So what happens is we begin to tolerate certain behaviors because we're not willing to have the difficult conversations. We tolerate actions from people because we're afraid to speak the truth about the performance of somebody. We're afraid to tell them what's really going on or how we really feel. And so again, the question on the scale of 1 being never, 6 being always, I always tell the truth to my team members, even if they might not like to hear that. All of the questions that we've gone through so far, those 4 questions, point back to the leadership concept of following humbly. All right, let's move on to inspire strategically. Next question is around excellence. That excellence distinguishes my team's performance and service, and the scale would be 1, I strongly disagree; 6, strongly agree. Excellence distinguishes my team's performance and service. 1, strongly disagree; 6, strongly agree. And I think what we're just getting at here is that we want to create effective people leaders know how to inspire their teams towards excellence. Effective people leaders know that really when it comes down to performance and service, what we want is to set an expectation for excellence where people know how to define that. So number 1 would be strongly disagree; 6, strongly agree. All right, next question. I view marketplace and client challenges as opportunities to strengthen relationships. Same scale: 1, strongly disagree; 6, strongly agree. I view marketplace and client challenges as opportunities to strengthen relationships. Let's be honest. Most people view client challenges and the marketplace challenges as places where it makes us look bad. And so we have to hide, or we have to not admit, or we have to seem like we've got it all together or seem perfect. And the reality is that it's through those difficult times and through those challenges that relationships are established to an even greater extent. All right, next question. I lead by example and inspire my people. 1, never; 6, always. I lead by example and inspire my people. And I would just ask that you get really honest in your personal reflection on this question. Do you lead by example? Are you the first person there? Are you doing the actions and the behaviors that you want to see reproduced in your team? Is there anything that you're doing that somebody could look at and say, well, you're not doing it. You're asking us to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. And so, again, what I would just ask is, hey, do you lead by example? And by leading by example, do you also inspire people? Next question. Learning and growth within my team is something I do not take lightly. Learning and growth within my team is something I do not take lightly. The scale is 1, strongly disagree. I disagree with that. 6, I strongly agree with that. Learning and growth within my team is something I do not take lightly. 1, strongly disagree. 6, strongly agree. We believe that creating an opportunity for the people on your team to know how to learn, how to grow, and that they would, as individuals, be able to choose how they want to grow and learn is such an effective way of developing team structures, developing culture within a team. And so the specific example that I would give you is that if you tell somebody to do something like, hey, can you clean the carpet? Can you clean the bathroom? And you ask them or tell them to do that, it's much different than when you say to someone, hey, there are a number of jobs around here that we need to get done. Which one would you like to explore? Which one would you like to learn how to do? And when you are motivated as an individual to learn and grow, it's a much more effective way of developing motivation within a team. Okay, so those last 4 questions sum up inspire strategically, the framework around inspiring strategically. Let's move on to our next kind of bullet around leadership, which would be managing individually. And the next question is connecting with each individual regularly creates a more effective team. 1, strongly disagree. 6, strongly agree. Connecting with each individual regularly creates a more effective team. We believe, because you heard it in our last episode, that when you connect regularly with people and you get to know them and understand them, it creates effective bond between 2 people, but also effectiveness within the team as you would begin to understand people more effectively. Question number 2 in this group: I maintain a sense of urgency when responding to people and resolving their problems. 1, strongly disagree. 6, strongly agree. I maintain a sense of urgency when responding to people and resolving their problems. And the point we want to make here is that urgency with people is really important because it makes them feel valued. And so the longer you wait, the longer you drag on something, the longer you go without responding, a person begins to feel less valued. Next question. I allow myself to be interrupted to solve a problem. I allow myself to be interrupted to solve a problem. 1, never. 6, always. Somewhere on that scale you fall. And what we've said in our previous episode was that from time to time, allowing yourself to be interrupted actually shows to the other people on your team that they matter, that whatever challenge that they're facing is a priority for you. And even if it means getting pulled out of whatever you were doing, that sometimes being just allowing yourself to be interrupted is an effective way of developing people leadership. Next question. I often ask questions to get to know people better on my team. I often ask questions to get to know people better on my team. 1, never. 6, always. I often ask questions to get to know people better on my team. Okay, so those 4 questions sum up managing individually. Let's move on to our last category, influence lovingly. Effective people leaders influence lovingly. I praise the people on my team on the smallest achievements. I praise the people on my team on the smallest achievements. What we're trying to get at there, 1 being never, 6 being always, is we're not looking to just praise people for huge wins, huge sales, big revenue boosts, but even the praise for a behavior in alignment with our company's mission, vision, values is something that's worth taking a moment to just praise, acknowledge, encourage, because what we reinforce, recognize, and reward, we will see reproduced within our organizations and within our teams. And so I just think taking an opportunity to praise somebody for the smallest little thing is an effective way of becoming a better people leader. Next question. I take time to clarify what is expected of each individual on my team. I take time to clarify what is expected of each individual on my team. 1, never. 6, always. And I think what we're getting at here is when you take the time with each individual to help them understand, here's the expectation, here's how you can win today, here's how you can go home feeling that you were successful. When we take the time to do that, people begin to feel better about their work, motivated, they feel like they've done good work, and I know that I've said this before on the show, but people don't wake up, roll out of the bed, and go, man, how can I really screw up today? Like, how can I really leave my company worse off? People roll out of bed going, man, I really hope somebody values me today. I hope somebody makes me feel valuable as a person, recognizes me. Somebody would remember my name today. And so, again, I think helping people understand what's expected will make them more effective in the workplace and within your team each day. Next question. I engage people in meetings to solve challenges together. I engage people in meetings to solve challenges together. One, never, six, always. The point that we're trying to make there is that people who influence teams, good, effective people leaders, know how to engage people in meetings to solve challenges together. The opposite would be that as a leader, I go away, I sit in my office, I pull a group of executives together to solve all the challenges that we're experiencing. And the reality is, if I go back to my team and I say, hey, we solved these challenges, they won't be bought into the solution. And I didn't effectively bring them into solving that challenge. Therefore, the next time a challenge comes up, they will wait for me, the leader, to solve it instead of beginning to solve it themselves. And so I think as we engage people, we actually help them to solve problems on their own. And then the last question, I believe having fun in the workplace is important. I believe having fun in the workplace is important. Now, I think that this might create some confusion. By fun, what we mean is an enjoyable workplace, that relationships are a priority, that people can actually take a moment to laugh because laughter is helpful and effective. So as we influence people in a loving way, we create a fun, enjoyable environment that people actually want to come to work. So the scale is 1, I strongly disagree with this. 6, I strongly agree with this. I believe having fun in the workplace is important. And those 4 questions sum up this idea of influencing people in a loving way. So again, under this leadership framework, we would say that there are 4 main themes. The first, follow humbly. The second, inspire strategically. Manage individually. Influence lovingly. We've given you 4 questions for each one of these kind of concepts. So a total of 16 questions. You've got a score. You've got a score that you've just developed. And what we asked from the beginning of the show is if you would be willing to send in your score to info@alwaysaboutpeople.com. Now, what's interesting, I hope you saw it, was that the lights just went off in this room. So there was a little bit of a flash. I was like, man, what's going on in here? I'm sure you saw that on camera watching this playback too, but hey, we're just rolling with it. So for those of you who jumped on late, I'm coming to you live from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm in a kitchen studio at one of our clients who has a kind of fishing production and processing facility. Here they bring fish and seafood straight off the boats, process it and send it out to high-end restaurants, grocery stores, ship it all over the country. And so we thought it would be fun to just come live from a different setting today. And the goal was in this show to take what we had tried to make practical around being an effective people leader into, let me take a moment to assess my own people leadership. And so we went through 4 questions across 4 different leadership elements, total of 16 questions. And we would love to know how you feel like you're doing. Feel free to send in questions. Feel free to engage with us in a conversation. But I just want to say thank you for joining us live. Thank you for joining us on this episode. I hope that these questions have left you with maybe a few ideas of some areas in your own leadership where you can grow, where you can learn, where you can improve. Even if you just need some suggestions for books to read, we would love to be able to share some resources with you on how you can become a more effective people leader. Thank you to those of you who join us live for this show each week. Thanks for joining me live in Jacksonville, Florida. If you're watching this after the fact, we'd love for you to get updates on when these shows are taking place and the topics that we're going to be covering. But I just want to say thank you again for joining us live. We'll see you on the next episode of the Always About People show.